Hey everybody, welcome back to One Seed, One World. Please subscribe to the channel. So it is a beautiful November day. Here we are, November 18th, and yet it is supposed to be about 67, 68 degrees out today. Although, a little later this afternoon, we're supposed to get a bunch of rain. There's a lot of breeze out here now, so hopefully this isn't coming in too much on my microphone, but a wind is blowing in a large swath of rainstorms that are going to come through today, and then it's supposed to drop to like in the, I don't know, mid 40s sometime tonight, overnight, or by tomorrow it's only supposed to be in the mid 40s. So because all this rain is coming in, I still have all of these Scarlet runner beans out here, and I want to get all these ones that are dry picked before the rain comes in and makes everything wet again. It would probably be okay if they did get wet, but then I'd have to wait for them to dry out again. And the longer you leave them out after they've kind of dried out and they continue to get wet, dry, frozen, whatever, you know, you got less chance of them being a good viable bean for whether you want to replant them next year, or a lot of these I'm going to use to make soups, chilies, eating, whatever. So I want to get all the ones that I can. The ones on this side, on these hoops here, are really pretty dry. I got ones over there that are almost like a semi-green color, but they've started to dry out and they're a little damp. I haven't decided if I'm gonna pick them yet or leave them on the vine a little bit longer to just kind of be out here in the weather. I don't know, we'll see. And then at the opposite end, on the hoops way down on the far end, I've got my long beans. I'm gonna try to get a bunch of those picked because most of those are all dried out now, and get all those harvested. So it's kind of cool that, you know, even though here we are in late November, I mean, Thanksgiving's only a week away, and I'm out here in short sleeves. Although this is probably the last day that I'm going to be able to be out here in short sleeves looking at the extended weather. So I'm taking full advantage of it, get the beans picked, and do some other little bit of winter prep. I got some wood to cut. I want to get some things set up with the chicken run today, or you know, some windbreaks put in on the chicken coop. And so, you know, while I've got a couple hours out here before the rain starts, might as well get on it. One great thing about the Scarlet runner beans is how easy they are to shell. You can pop open the pods really easy, and then, you know, you're left with these beans. Oop, of course, as always, I'm going to drop some. But get a couple of big fat beans in there. And so these aren't, that pod that is opened, they're a little damp, and so I need them to dry out more. And I got like this little bucket here that's full of pods that I need to go shell. And I have a ton more in here to pick. I just kind of wanted to show you what was going on. Lighting's not real good here. Hopefully you guys can see me. Okay. But thing of pods. Some of them still have some green, so I think what I'm gonna do, because some of them, because we have had rains in the last week, and while some are really dry, others I can feel a little bit of damp on them. And you know, when you are wanting to store away dried beans, you don't want any moisture in them at all. So once I get these shelled, I will go and spread them out on a sheet pan and let them dry probably for a good couple of days or more, until I'm satisfied that they are good and dry, and then I'll store them in a mason jar, probably with like one of those oxygen inhibitor packet things, and then they'll keep over the winter. So just keep that in mind. It doesn't matter whether it's Scarlet runner beans, long beans, any dry beans that you're doing, just make sure that they are completely dry before you store them away. And you can just kind of lay them out on whatever you have, paper plates, sheet pans, on a table, something, if you've got some room, depending on how big your harvest is. Just make sure they're all dry. So next is the long beans, and we're gonna start working on those. Much easier picking, but much harder shelling. So we got a bushel of long beans, dried long beans that I pulled off of here. And picking long beans is the easy part. They pop right off the vine once they're dried out like this. Super easy. But you see how thin they are, and the beans in there are really small. So shelling them is a bit of a pain. Definitely takes a while. And it's easy to lose them because they're small. Already lost a couple already. I'm trying to get a couple out of here for you so you can kind of see what they look like. There's different varieties of these as well. Some have black beans in them, like these, the ones that I planted. Oh, geez, I keep dropping them. And then there's other ones that have brown beans. So either way, you end up kind of with the same result with the beans. But I won't bore you with shelling all these beans and showing you all that. If you want to check out more details on growing Chinese long beans, yard long beans, asparagus beans, they kind of have different names. There's also, I mean, there's green ones, there's purple ones, there's a couple different varieties of them. I think there's one that's called the Chinese long bean, and then there's like the Taiwan light long bean. They're kind of all the same, they're all very similar in taste, texture, growing, that sort of thing, but they have different names and slightly different varieties. But if you want to check out kind of like the focus that I did on these, I had done a video a year ago both on growing them, and then I did a follow-up where I was shelling them and cooking down some of the dried beans, because they are a dual purpose bean. You can use them as regular green beans. They're just way longer. Or you can let them dry on the vine and then shell them and use the little beans inside to cook in any other type of dried bean dish that you would use. Or you can just save them for planting again next year, either way. But as a dual purpose, you can eat them as a dried bean or a green snap bean. So there's that. But I won't go through all the details because I have a previous video that you can check out if you want. But for the Scarlet Runner beans, I just got like this little planter pot and I filled that with those. That was, I don't know, probably 3/4 of one side. I still have a whole nother side to do, but a lot of the ones on the other side are still pretty green, and I've decided that I'm gonna let them sit on the vine a while longer, let them dry out maybe another week or two. Even though it's supposed to rain, I still will let them get through the rain, then dry out and get to more of a brown stage. Because you'll get them, you know, like this one still has a little bit of coloration to it, a little bit of, I don't know how this comes up on the camera, but you know, it's got some dark spots, but then there's other ones in here that are much more like a beige tan, and that's more kind of what I like them to get instead of these. And then I've got other ones that have a lot of green in them, so, and those felt really damp to me, so they haven't got a good dry on them yet. I could pick them now and then just dry them inside. You can do that too, but I'm gonna let them dry on the vine. And then once it's all done in another week or two, then I'll be able to clean out these back beds. All of my front beds are cleaned out, but the back garden I haven't done a whole lot with, other than a couple of the shorter beds, and then getting my tomato plants, or okay, only one bed I got my tomato plants out of in the back garden, because all behind me, I'm looking around, I'm surrounded by dead tomato plants. So I still have a lot of work to do back here, but at least the front garden's done, and I'll get this once I get the rest of the dried beans out of here. So you'd never know it being out here today. It's been mostly all completely clear blue skies, no clouds or anything, and warm, breezy. But fortunately, I took a look at the weather forecast for this week, and today said 90% chance of rain. But when I came out earlier, I was like, man, where is it gonna rain? It's so beautiful out, and there's not a cloud in the sky. Well, now that I've been out here, finished picking the beans, and I'm trying to get a couple other things done, looking over to the west of here, and the skies are all dark. There are big clouds coming this way, and I would imagine within the next couple hours, it's gonna cloud up and start raining, and then that temperature is gonna drop. So the next thing that I wanna get on here to kind of get ready for winter is giving a little bit of a wind block to the chickens. I have a bunch of this leftover stuff from the greenhouse, this plastic roofing stuff. I have a couple of different kinds, but this kind was on top, so this is what I grabbed. This is, of course, the more expensive one, but I'm not gonna use it for anything else, so I might as well use it for the wind block for the chickens, and I can take it off in the summer because I'm just screwing it onto the base of the chicken run, and then, you know, store it in the garage, and then just put it back on next winter. So I can use this over and over again because it doesn't have to be watertight. It will keep any rain, like if there's blowing wind and rain coming in, going underneath of the coop, keep that cold air from flowing through there. If they want to kind of bed, you know, when they're out of the coop and want to kind of dig down and nest underneath the coop, sometimes they do. This will keep the wind from blowing on them. And then from like their food area, and I also want to put a little dust bath in there where I want to keep the moisture out of the dust bath. So this will protect that throughout the winter with rain and stuff. So I just have to remove the plastic sheathing or whatever you call it that they have attached to this. And then I'll probably just screw it directly onto the back of the coop. There might be a couple pieces I might have to cut to get to fit the way I want it to. But I'm not gonna do it the whole way up. It's probably gonna be maybe 1 or 2 of these high if I do it long ways. And that will reduce the amount of cutting that I have to do. So I'm gonna get on that. So generally I would cut this a little bit better so that it would fit directly on just the cage part, not go over this back part that doesn't have the wiring. But this bends really easy, and it's just basically keep wind out. I've got a little bit of a gap right here, which I think is okay, because this is there's a little bit of overhang on the roof, which will keep, you know, when the rain falls, and then it'll drip down kind of out here. But if there's any blowing rain, it would, which is rare from this side, but still this is a long open side, so it's going to keep wind out, rain. This is where their food pipes are, where I go in and fill up the PVC pipes with the automatic feeders, and so it'll keep rain off of any of that if it's blowing in that way. It just kind of helps. Also, using deck screws on this stuff is not recommended. It's what I had. I didn't want to go out and buy additional roofing screws that are made for this with the rubber grommets on them, because again, it doesn't have to be watertight. It's more of a windbreak and any just blowing rain. Oh, keep going sideways here. So that gets this backside covered. I still have some more pieces that I want to do that I'm not going to be able to get done today. These clouds are blowing in really fast. I was expecting it not to have to worry about rain till later, but I don't know. I think it might be coming earlier than what they originally said, but at least I got these two back pieces on. So that's the next step for today's projects. So what I'll eventually do is this part of the coop here behind me, that's just the grate, I'll cut a smaller piece to go and block the wind through here. It won't go all the way up. It'll just be like half height behind this door. So you see, this will be covered behind me. And then I'll also do a piece along the end as well. And then they'll kind of have a U where it will be completely wind blocked out for the winter. And I probably won't do it all the way around. I guess I could. I have enough stuff to cut and put underneath there. But just because where the coop is located, I don't know if I need to completely block it in other than the door. I have done that in the past when we used to have the coop and the run up in the further part of the yard that got a lot more wind across there. But back here in this back corner, I don't think they're going to get as much wind at this lower level, especially because now we've got the 6-foot privacy fence that goes all the way around that's just outside of this. So that's going to help block wind too. So this is just a little bit of extra to help keep some wind and rain out over the winter and maybe make it a little bit warmer in there without using any type of artificial lamps like heating lamps and stuff like that. I don't like using that with my chickens. One, it's not necessary. You don't need a heat lamp for your chickens in most places where you're going to be raising them. And also a heat lamp is a fire hazard. You know, if mice got in there and started chewing on a wire or something, the whole place could go up. I've seen too many chicken coops burned down. The only electric that we do run out here is during the winter we do use a heated waterer that is on an electric cord, but that sits on the outside of the coop. It's not in the coop. There's nothing in the coop where all the pine shavings and stuff are. We do a heated waterer that sits up on a bench that they can get to, and there's a lot. I guess there would still be some issue that could be a fire hazard, but it's very minimal compared to having like a heat lamp inside your coop. So unless you are raising baby chicks that are not accustomed to being outside yet, you know, those are under a heat lamp. Normally you would have those in a house or in a shed and not out in the coop yet. But once your chickens move out to the coop, you don't have to worry about doing a heat lamp. They will be fine as long as you have a solid coop and some decent ventilation for moisture to get out as their body heat builds up. They kind of generate their own heat inside the coop. So you do need a little bit of ventilation in there because if all the moisture is trapped in there and it gets super cold, that's how they can get frostbite, because they're generating their own heat and moisture in there. But a heat lamp itself, I don't recommend. I mean, you do you, but I don't use them and have not found them to be necessary. And we get plenty of nights here in the wintertime that are in the 20s, the teens, and sometimes we're even occasionally below zero. So again, it's going to depend on where you're at and what your situation is, but as a general rule, you don't need to heat your chicken coop. They should be fine. So the other thing I wanted to get done today was getting some more wood, both cut up with the chainsaw and then split. But this rainstorm has come in much quicker than expected. It's getting pretty dark out here and I've already felt a couple of raindrops. So I've started to put my tools away and get things finished up. And that's gonna be it for today. But thanks for stopping by and checking out another video. Whatever's going on in your neck of the woods, I hope that it's all going well and that you're getting well prepared for winter and are having a great fall. But until next time, we'll see you again soon. Have a great day. Namaste.